guys, we're here for part 2 of our series from red to green. So red to green series, part 2. Part 2 is our shoulder mobility. So last week what we did was we covered active straight leg raise. That's where we need to start in the FMS. If we see a 1 or a dysfunction in our straight leg raise following the FMS hierarchy, we want to make sure we clear that up before we move on. So part 2 is if the active straight leg raise is cleared, let's work on clearing shoulder mobility. So we worked the continuum, kind of talked about that in our straight leg raise series. So if you missed that, make sure you go back and watch that because we explain a little bit further about the mobility, working our way all the way up to the strength and power. So just to keep things simple, I'm not going to explain that today. I'm just going to go ahead and hand the reins over to Steve. He's going to take me from mobility to strength and power on whenever we see a dysfunctional shoulder mobility screen on the FMS. So Steve, why don't you take me through mobility, starting with the reach backs, and then we'll take it all the way up to strength and power.
The mobility exercise that we're going to start with is going to be reach back. So we're going to have Jared get into a quadruped position on the floor. Knees right underneath the hips, hands right underneath the shoulders. So we're actually going to have Jared, good call, we're going to have Jared rock back on this one from the quadruped position to where his lumbar is locked out. If we have him come up too far, when he starts to rotate, he's going to get lumbar rotation. So we're gonna rock him back onto his butt a little bit to lock in that lumbar. So we get the most T-spine rotation and not any lumbar rotation. So from here, I'm just going to have Jared put his hand on the back of his head. He's going to reach his elbow towards his opposite knee, ducking under and trying to keep that opposite arm as close to me as straight as possible. And then from there, he's just going to open up and try to point this elbow up towards him. With his eyes, he should be looking at the elbow and looking towards the ceiling. He's trying to get that elbow up as high close to the ceiling as possible, exhaling as he opens up, inhaling as he comes down. So with this, we're working on T-spine extension, T-spine rotation, with a nice neutral lumbar spine before we bring it up to any more difficult exercises. So once we get that T-spine in a good position, now we're setting up for a situation to where we can start working on some good shoulder mobility. But until we get this T-spine squared away, we're just going to keep running into issues over and over and over again. So that's our first one, is the reach back. From there, we're going to go into some shoulder packing drills. So we want to make sure he has, now that we got the T-spine open up and everything's good to go, we want to make sure he has basic stability of the rotator cuff, shoulder scapula, all that stuff. So we're going to start with a supine shoulder packing drill, and then we're going to go to a seated shoulder packing drill. So with supine, let's first just show him what bad shoulder packing looks like. So I'm going to grab his arm, and basically this shoulder, if he wasn't packing the shoulder, would be real sloppy. So all I'm going to tell Jared to do is just keep that shoulder, pull it down into the socket there, make sure it's nice and packed, and I'm just going to give it a little test here. So if that's good, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull Jared up from the ground, and he's going to bend at his waist. I want to crush my hand as hard as he can so we can get that rotator cuff and everything in the shoulder online. I'm going to get in a good position here, and I'm going to bend him at the waist as I pull him up. And I want to see that that shoulder stays packed. And that's the level 2. And then from there, I'm going to really challenge Jared's shoulder packing by having him be in a plank position, and I want to lift his entire body off the ground as though he's a 2x4. Perfect. Once we got that shoulder packing down, we're going to bring him into a seated position. So let's have Jared go ahead and sit. And I'm going to have him put his arm up over his head. And once again from here, I'm not going to be able to lift him up in the air or anything, but I just want to definitely make sure that he has good mobility, a good position here, and that he can crush my hand. And when I pull up, he can maintain a nice packed shoulder. And then from here, we're going to bring him into some dynamic stability stuff. So, kettlebell arm bar really is one of the greatest shoulder stability, mobility exercise combos that we know of. So we're going to have him start by rolling over, grabbing the kettlebell, addressing it the proper way like we would in a Turkish get-up. He's almost in a position to start a Turkish get-up right now. Press the kettlebell straight forward. But instead of going to a get-up, we're just going to have Jared roll over onto his side. So let's just start with a roll. And we want to make this real slow. He's bringing his leg over the top, He's making sure that this kettlebell is solid here. So we're getting some really good shoulder packing and some stability here. From here, I want to have Jared just go ahead and knock out a couple rotations with the bell. So let's go back to the same position. Let's knock out a couple rotations. Good. A lot of learning going on in that position. And then we're going to have him roll back. Make sure that head's down, not strain that neck. And if we need to put him on an air X pad, we could. We don't need to. Go ahead and roll it back one more time. You can put that arm up and put your head down on your arm if you like. And really drive that chest in towards the ground. Good. And come on back. That's the kettlebell arm bar. So you can see we're getting some good shoulder packing, some good stability as we're rotating the torso around while the shoulder and the arm stay still instead of moving the arm. So that's a really great exercise for that. From there, we're going to go into the Turkish get-up. So this is a great strength exercise for shoulder stability to bridge the gap into power stuff. So same startup position. We're going to have him address the kettlebell, roll it, press it, and then we're going to take Jared through a Turkish get-up. So we'll have him roll to his elbow. And then from there, we want to make sure this is nice and stable all the way down. Let's roll to the hand. Beautiful. This looks just like what it looked like whenever we were doing the shoulder packing drills. That's perfect. And then we're going to have him go to the high bridge position. Full extension of the hips, thanks that we cleared his active straight leg raise. And then bring that leg under. Let's come up to the half kneeling position. And you can stop here or go ahead and stand. Let's reverse the movement, reverse lunge. Sweep the leg. Kick that leg through, back down the butt, elbow. And bring the kettlebell down, roll it back to the starting position. That's a quick demo of the Turkish get-up. We recommend that if you need a really great resource on the Turkish get-up, that Kalo Stenos by Greg Cook and Brett Jones is phenomenal. It breaks down the Turkish get-up into 7 different steps. Best resource that we've seen on the get-up so far. So if you need a little bit deeper education on that, that's what we recommend. From there, we're going to get into the push press. So Jared could either clean or cheat curl one kettlebell. We're going to have him just do cheat curl. He's got the kettlebell in the rack position. We probably want to see maybe a press before getting into this, but we're going to show the power from here. So good, nice solid press. We've seen it happen. We've cleared it. We know it's good. Let's get into a push press where we're just going to use a little bit of a knee dip and explode the weight overhead. So really with this push press, it's not a whole lot of pressing from the shoulder and the arm. You're getting some power and boom! And you're popping that bell up and really just kind of catching it at the top where you have to be really stable. So it's so important to work through those progressions along the continuum from red to green before you get into exercises like this to make sure you have really good shoulder and neck health and low back health moving forward. So that is shoulder mobility, and we'll see you next week.